Oh, goody. Thank goodness they let us do this 2 hours early. Hi, Susan, Dr. Susan Kaye.
Hello. Nice to be here with you.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be here with you. I've been watching your videos and I see your many incarnations, and I like your sexy white hair. It's been like all
Oh,
different colors.
I know. It took me some time to do it, and I'm so sorry I didn't just let it go. I tell all my friends in their 40s, just let it go.
Just let it go.
It's not good for you to be putting dyes on. And I had this underneath there, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
I know. Look what you were hiding.
I know. Yeah.
Isn't it fun to be the wise older woman?
It is. I really do. I mean, at 73, I'm still young at heart, and
You're amazing. Oh my
my
gosh. What an
body,
inspiration. I
my
know someone
body.
asked me how old is she. I'm like, I didn't ask, but I'm so glad you came right out with it up front.
Yeah, I'll be 74 in December. But I took myself on at a young age. Back in the 60s, I knew you had to make your body your best friend. And I was able to find a yoga class in the Amish town of Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And I became a vegetarian. I joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church because they were vegetarians. And I ended up teaching and running their health message. And that led to massage, which led me to this work.
So interesting. Thank you for sharing a little bit about your background, and feel free to liberally spice anything from your past. Really, this is kind of like a fireside conversation. There's a fireplace in the back. I think that it's important to get to know people and the foundation of energetics underneath the message, because really we can listen when we feel aligned or feel rapport with someone. And I've really been curious about you and what you do. So let's kind of welcome the audience. This is streaming in a couple of different places. I see I have a couple of messages, but they're from my tech support guy. So thanks, Johnny. I don't need you anymore. So I'm Karen. I'm in Austin. I came up with a nurtured life because I realized that I grew up with a lot of privilege, but some of the things that I didn't have growing up, I think, are vital to living life from a higher level of expression. Our country, the US, we're very capable by and large as a society of feeding and housing ourselves. We've even created institutions that will feed people and house people if they're unable to do it for themselves. And that is a high level of social support. But still, most people do a job just for the money, just to pay the bills. They're not necessarily looking for their higher calling. And I was realizing that I wanted to do work that I loved, which was kind of surprising for me. But a friend asked me way back when, do you love your job? And I said, I like it. And she said, that's a no. And I was like, what the hell are you even talking about? What could you possibly mean by that? Because for me, work and love didn't equate. And that has really been my journey, is how to love what I do more, and how to find out, first of all, what do I love, and then actually do it. So I hear that you've been following that path for a while. And my guest is Dr. Susan Kaye. I can say there's a few different names for what you do. Could you just list them off for us?
Oh, well, mostly sexologist. That's what my degree is, my PhD. I started out doing body work back in the early 80s when it was still the massage parlor. So I was the first one to work in a chiropractor's office, the first one to work in a gym or fitness centers before the girls were really there. And also the first massage therapist in a massage or in a hair salon.
Wow.
So then I was realizing the value of it for what I call now the neck down.
Yes.
and was connected to Dr. Bill Staten, who was a Baptist minister sexologist. But a friend introduced us, said, you two need to meet. And he brought me into his therapy office where there was 5 other therapists as a massage therapist in 1985. So we were really ahead of the curve, but I knew it was the future. And, integrative medicine is here now. Integrative therapy is riding those coattails.
Okay, so sexologist, integrative therapist, body mind therapist. Does sexological body worker come in there?
It does. I mean, the sex field's kind of a Wild West show right now because it's been opened up. And so people are calling themselves whatever they're calling themselves. And unfortunately, they're also saying they have this accreditation. It's not regulated enough, in my opinion. But yeah, it's, I don't know, just all overall, a sex therapist, really.
A sex therapist.
Yeah.
It's funny. This topic is near and dear to me because I've been a pleasure coach for many years. And when I go to average BNI or NIA networking group, I announce that I'm a pleasure coach. And the women are always curious. And the men always say, so exactly what does a sex therapist do? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't even mention those words. I'm not a sex therapist. But that is what men hear when they hear anything about pleasure.
Yes. Yes. Tragedy, isn't it?
It's just so off base, like it's not rapport building.
Yes.
When they say, so what? And I'm like, I don't know. I would like to know. I am really curious about your field. I have friends that are studying to do what you do, and some of them are in Austin. I think they should meet you. Maybe I can have a little meet and greet so they can learn the hands-on history, like who paved the way. Because it really is important to know the background of what it is we're teaching and what the roots of it are and what kind of struggles people had. Like, first of all, I have a few questions. I'm a historian or a herstory, so I'll ask you some questions about the past. But the first question that comes to mind is, what's the most common misunderstanding about your work?
Yeah, that were prostitutes or that were providing sex, outside of the box of what we call therapy. People have a hard time wrapping their brain around that there's a legitimate therapy that involves sexuality. And you said where did these early messages come from? I don't know if you're familiar with the sex team of Masters and Johnson.
Because I grew up in the 60s.
Okay, well, I actually studied with them and I worked for Masters and Johnson back in the early 80s. And he was one of my professors at the Institute for Advanced Studies of Human Sexuality, which was, of course, located in California. But that's where I got my degree. And I knew Dr. Masters from there and did clients for him as a surrogate. And now I train folks to do hands-on body work as surrogate partners. And we also train people who come to us just with their, not just, but with their hands-on modality, like name it, Tantra, just basic massage or Reiki or whatever. All that. And we teach them how to work inside a therapeutic model, like I did with M&J. Like M&J were the therapists, so they're the neck up. And then I was the neck down as the surrogate. And now we train folks who are doing anything that's neck down, or even EMDR people. We have them on our staff and on our team. So that's called neck up, or talk pros, because they talk. And the neck down is also touch pros because they incorporate some kind of touch. So those are the distinctions and those are the trainings that we offer.
Okay, so talk and touch. And when you say we offer, what's the name of the organization that offers?
We're integrative mind body therapies.com. My LLC is just under my name, but our the way that clients know us or how we market is the integrative, which means bringing together mind body therapies, plural.
Good. And you're working yourself in Austin. And what's the other location that you go to?
Well, I'm in Pennsylvania right now, and I still have an office here where I started out back in the
In
80s.
which city?
Well, I'm near King of Prussia. People might know that. I'm from Pottstown, which is like an old Amish town between Pottstown and Philadelphia.
So in a little town. And do people come to you from all over?
Pretty much. I mean, we have a location here. We have Florida. We have Maryland, Delaware. I have surrogate there. I have a couple in California, one training in Massachusetts, about 3 in Texas, where I mostly live. And let's see who else I know. Oh, we have a couple in New York. So we have surrogates, male and female, and we have gay and lesbian people who are trained.
Let's back up for a minute. I want to understand what surrogacy means. I actually remember the first conversation I had with you way before I ever met you in person. And you asked me, was I interested in surrogacy? And I was like, no, because I didn't really know what it is. But in the moment, I really didn't ask what it was. I was just like, heavens no, I would never be interested in that. So why don't, because you said it so many times, and you said you worked for Masters and Johnson and you were the surrogate. So what does that mean?
Yeah. So surrogate means substitute, right? So substitute partner. They don't have a partner to practice with. Now we teach the surrogate protocols to couples because you need 2 people. And so folks that come to us generally do not have a partner. A lot of late life virgins are people who struggle with trauma. So we have to clear up the trauma. That's why we have EMDR people on. We have cuddle therapists on with us who fully clothed, will bring a client into their body. And we have lots of tears and we have lots of memories come up, and just touch. I can touch someone's face, a male that's come to me because they're broken in some way. And if I have them in front of me, I will touch them, just their face or maybe their hand. And it brings tears because touch has been run into that factor of if somebody gets touched, then there's going to be sex. Unfortunately, we've taken touch away from our teachers in schools to be able to touch children. And, there's such a protocol around the medical field about how we touch, and touch is our most vital need. And when I can touch someone and bring them to tears, I know it's the core of what's missing. And that's how we start. So, yeah, we have cuddle therapists. I have people who do Reiki, Shiatsu. They have their own other modalities that they've been trained in. They come to us to be trained on how to use their modality inside of our process. Am I explaining? Does that make sense? Or
yes, I'm digesting it. So, why did that happen? That touch is so confused with sexuality instead of being attributed to nurturing.
Right. Isn't it so sad? And I think, around the world, there's so many things in place that demonize touch, like a lot of religions. You're not allowed to touch or see the body, or, you have to be covered. And I in my big picture, I see it as having been demonized because it's a way to control people. If people aren't getting touched and they aren't feeling good about themselves or others, there's a lot of negativity that happens. And so I just think it's the core of who we are. I could do a whole show for you and with you on touch. I've done sermons on touch and the need for touch. It's our most basic sense of humanity. And here's why. When we come in, like when we're born, we can't see so good, we can't hear so good, we can only smell mother's milk, and we have no taste buds. But every nerve ending that we are ever going to have is alive. So we read our world through touch. Are we touched as a baby? Are we put in an incubator and not touched because of whatever? Mom's sick, I'm sick. And I can take a history from 0 to 5 on the client in front of me, and I know what's wrong with the 55-year-old virgin sitting in front of me. Because touch is our most developed sense. As I said, we can't hear so good, can't see so good. What happens when we age out? Can't hear so good, can't see so good. We lose our sense of taste and smell, but our touch hungers never change. Unless, of course, of accident or illness, but in the way that we have been created.
That's so powerful.
Isn't it? I know, and that we've demonized touch because we wrap it up in sexuality, which has been, I use the word demonized, maybe I shouldn't, but that's how it feels to me. And it's a huge piece of our humanity that we've been robbed of. And I think it's why we do wars and we, are so nasty to each other. And
how would your parents explain what you do?
I don't know what she does. She's some kind of doctor.
Is that really what they say?
Yeah. My dad even came. I was teaching in Pottstown at the community school. When I first got my doctorate, it was my first teaching job. And he came to class. I was really surprised. He came to one of my classes, but never really talked to me about it or asked me. My mom just says, "Oh, I don't know what she does. She's a doctor."
But your mom's a doctor. What kind of physician is she?
No, my mom would say, "I'm a doctor. I don't know what
you're a doctor." Okay.
No, my mom's just a homemaker. Neither of my parents finished high school. Like I said, very Amish kind of surrounding.
Are they actually Amish?
They aren't actually Amish, but there's a lot around me. And I have Amish clients that I see when I come home. Yeah.
It's so fascinating to me. Okay, so they don't really know. What had you be so curious to begin with? I mean, it was certainly not your upbringing.
You have to get my book because in my book, I tell my story in that I was 16 working as mostly a babysitter, right? I had younger sister and brother, neighbors. But when I turned 16, I had access to a car. So my girlfriend had got a job in the local hospital, Pottstown Hospital, in the dietary kitchen. So with the job, so I could drive. Now I could drive myself to work, and I would be carrying the dinner food trays around to the rooms, right? So as a young girl, I saw a lot of sick and dying, and we had the morgue right next to the kitchen. There'd be bodies out in the hallway. So I have real clear vision of leaving a patient's room, standing in the hallway and looking down at the tray of food. I was 16, and I can feel myself there right now as I say it. Made myself a commitment to figure out how to not end up here. And I went to work on that, and that's how come I found vegetarian. I mean, there was like 3 vegetarian books: Diet for a Small Planet, Francis Latmore, and Eat Right, Live Right, Adele Davis. And I found the Natural Hygiene Society. How? I have no idea. Everything just fell in. And that's why I said I joined the Adventists, because they were vegetarian and had a health message from Ellen White, who I came across while I was studying Dr. Harvey Kellogg, who invented Kellogg's cereals because he wanted to make healthy cereals, because now they started bolting the wheat and making white bread back in the turn of the 19th century, 1900s. And so all this just fell in on me. And my path was just one step at a time, and how I took care of my body and how I taught. I taught vegetarian cooking classes in this little town called Boyertown, Pennsylvania. And they have 2, maybe even 3 vegetarian restaurants today. And it's a small town. But I started teaching in the adult classes. Vegetarian.
Are you still a vegetarian?
Oh, yes, very much so.
And do you still follow Seventh-day teachings?
I don't. I mean, I see a lot that they teach is coming on board. We could do a class about that. What Ellen foresaw as prophecy. And yeah, there's a lot of things that are very interesting along with Bible.
A lot of elevated ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with a Jewish background, and I always am amazed that it says on the 7th day you should rest, because rest is really an elevated concept. It's really a time of pleasure. It's a time of not striving and pushing your body. And it gives time for the spirit to arise. And I think it's such a fascinating idea. And I know the 7th day, often I encounter people that are 7th day and they talk to me about the Sabbath. And I'm like, that is so interesting, because I really didn't know about it. That other people are observing the same Sabbath that I grew up with.
It is the true 7th day. You know, Constantine with the Catholic Church changed it to Sunday to separate the religions, other religions, from the Jewish community.
So when you're working, I mean, are you still doing the hands-on, or are you mostly training people now?
Yeah. No, I don't do hands-on. I haven't since probably early 2000 when I finished my doctorate, and then I started training people to do what I did. So no, we do not mix up talk and touch. If you're a talk pro, you don't touch. If you're a touch pro, you don't do the psychiatry or the therapy. So that's really clarity. And that's
Is it happening in the same session, or is it happening in 2 different sessions?
It's happening in all various sessions, because sometimes clients fly to us, and then we do like extensive weekends, or a client will fly a surrogate to them. And again, you do a 4 or 5 day, not much more than that, in a one visit, see how they're doing, and maybe they come back. You know, when they come back, we say it depends, but like M&J's model was 15 sessions, 12 to 15 sessions. So I still adhere to that. But we do everything. We teach our virgins how to go to lingerie stores. You know, I send them to Victoria's Secret and say, go in, tell the sales lady, I need a gift for my girlfriend. And they're so nervous and so scared. But when I was working, I had a collection of lingerie because my therapist would send them out and we take them on dinner dates or get them to the gym or go to their apartments. We've rearranged apartments and made, you know, our bachelor's sitting in there with a big screen TV and one chair that they eat, you know, their dinner on. And we've transformed their homes. Oh, you can't bring a girl in here. We have to fix this up. So we're like a substitute girlfriend. That's how it is. Or, you know.
But only 15 sessions?
It depends.
How did someone come that far in 15 sessions? I mean, what did they do to create community around them that's supportive of the new person that they're becoming?
That's part of the job. And that's why, part of the work and their homework. We send them home with homework if we're not going to. They do anyway. And I fire clients who don't do their homework. I tell them that. Because you can't come in here and work with us for 2 hours and then come back in a month or 2 months and say, oh, well, that didn't work. in between time, they have homework. And and I'm serious, if they don't do their homework, then I know they're either not really on board or ready. And if I can find them something else that they should be doing, like in a therapeutic modality. But yeah, we've managed to fix, because M&J had everybody come there. When I was there for 2 weeks, and we worked every day. We had assignments to do, to go out and do social things as well as other relational things.
What a fascinating study.
I know.
So, you're saying, I mean, this is my own words, right? That you're saying someone comes to you and they're doing 15 sessions over approximately what length of time?
It depends where they live. I mean, if they're here, if they're nearby, it probably takes, how many times would that be in months? I mean, it has to take at least 6 to 8 months. That would be the least amount, I would say.
Okay. And so then in between the sessions, they're cultivating this new social network. They're cultivating a new home environment. They're cultivating new language, new, I guess you could say, like shopping habits.
New ways to dress, absolutely. Yeah, and my dissertation, if anyone's interested, is on my website, drsusankaye.com. There's a tab for surrogate partner, and my dissertation is there. And what I wrote about was that the socialization skills were more important than the touch skills.
Mm-hmm.
Getting them out and seeing themselves, being with people. I don't minimize the need for the touch, but so much focus goes on, as we started out talking about, what do people think about, this work where you're doing potential sexuality. And so I wanted to turn the focus on the importance and the value of the socialization, where we take them out. When I was working, I went to a introductory, or kind of like a first time gathering for one of my clients that was going to law school at Villanova. And they had this meet and greet, and he was so nervous because he's not gone to, parties or going to hang, like it was all very scary and foreign. So I went as a date with him to this gathering, and it just he got to see himself as that guy
with the beautiful woman on his arm. It's so compassionate. Okay, so I should have asked you this at the beginning, but I'm going to ask you now because I remembered the question. What do you want people to take away from this episode? What do you want them to know?
That touch is our most vital organ. We all need to be touched, and in healthy ways. So figure that out for your kids, and also teach them about their bodies, how their sexual organs function, how they're going to grow into them. The silence around being able to teach our children about their bodies is a tragedy. I get those people at 40 and 50. Yeah. So that's the touch information. The fact that we have, again, demonized people who are seeking more information about their bodies and sexuality, that it's just so much tragedy that comes from our fear, of understanding and knowing our bodies. So yeah, getting them lessons. What else we do is, I have folks go to like meetup groups to go to the socialization. So meetup groups for anybody who's feeling kind of lonely or needs a hobby. It's not a hookup group. You go and meet people who have like minds.
Yes.
And that's where I don't want my clients on those hookup sites.
Oh my gosh, that's so ridiculous.
No, it's too much pressure. So you go to meetup and there's no pressure. I had a guy recently from here, Pennsylvania, that he decided he liked birding. So he was going to birding groups. And so he joined, this meetup where that's what they did on Saturdays. And so when I was home last time, I went with him. So it was like he had a girl with him to the birding group. And we were out there for 3 hours. And the guy who was leading, oh, that's a silver-throated wren from New Jersey. Like, how do you know that? But he really, he's dating now because that gave him enough courage to step out. So that's one thing I say is the socialization, like how we are with ourselves inside of socialization, and joining book clubs or joining something where we meet other people. And I don't know, what do you want? 3, what?
Say it again.
What did you want? 3? What did you want from me?
Oh, what do you want our listeners to take away?
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm really hearing is obviously that touch is normal and that we should normalize it and teach our children about their bodies, our children. Do you have a book to recommend about teaching children?
I do. It's called, I have a picture. Hold on.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm wondering if it's the same one that I discovered. There are some really great resources out there. I mean, my parents didn't teach me too much about sex. I knew that they had it, and they were affectionate with each other, but I didn't learn that it was something that I could do or that I would be normal doing. I just learned it by fooling around as a teenager, but I wish they would have told me more about it and that it was going to happen. And I wish they would have known more about tribal cultures, that at the age that I was when I got curious about it was the age that kids get curious about it when left to their own devices.
Right. And it's just a tragedy. I mean, we didn't make it up. Our creator created us this way. And it's just reading old messages about sexuality through religious teachings and trainings, and how things got turned around, that women were honored. And, the Venus of Willendorf is a pregnant woman. It's the oldest statue that we have from like 40,000 BC or whatever. I mean, like,
wow,
women were honored as the givers of life. And then when we became agrarian, they saw the sheep, the male was impregnating the female, that they found out, oh, okay, the female gets pregnant. Oh, okay, so you folks you women don't contribute. You're just like an easy bake oven, because we deliver the sperm and then the oven incubates, and 9 months later we get a child. We didn't discover ovaries until the 1872. That, oh, women, you do contribute. Oh, well, too bad we're already in charge of everything. So yeah, the book I was looking for, and I just was at a wellness expo with Dr. Mark Schoen. And you might want to look at Dr. Mark's work. It's SCHOEN. He has sexsmartfilms.com on the net. He has films from back into the early 1900s. There's historical. You should have him on. He's really interesting. Anyway, Mark and I do a lot together, because I send my students to him for the films, and we coordinate. We've done a lot of teaching together because we bring this message. And he wrote a book called Belly Buttons Are Navels for children. He wrote it in the early 70s, and no one would print it because he had the word clitoris in there. They said, well, print it if you take the word clitoris out. And he said no. And he eventually got it printed himself. But that's, these are just the stories of what people have gone through in order to bring this message of love for ourselves and others to people.
Okay, good. So I made a note of that. And then I also want to recommend that the Unitarian Universalist Church has a sex education program for young people, starting with kindergarten and going all the way through 12th grade. And it's called Our Whole Lives. And it's abbreviated OWL.
Right.
And they have facilitators and facilitator training. And they also have books for young children and books for older children and adolescents that are very inclusive of all of the parts of the genitalia and all of the parts of the body and all of the different skin colors and all of the different naturally occurring proclivities towards sex and sexual expression. And I thought that those books were literally revolutionary when I found them as a middle-aged mother. I was like, wow, my son can actually learn about this in a relaxed way.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's very sexually positive and healthful, in part because of those books.
Yes.
Because he was exposed to it. He didn't have to like sneak into his mom's room. He had his own books. Like I snuck into my mom's room to read everything you wanted to know about sex, but were afraid to ask.
Oh, okay.
You might remember those days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I found my dad's Playboys.
Oh, gosh, yes. That was my main education.
A lot of my men, that's what that's where they got it way back.
How old were you when you found them?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I'm going to say like 10 to 12, something like that. I don't know what had me go look underneath his bed. And I wasn't looking for magazines, but I was led there, and I was like, oh my goodness, what is all this? But yeah.
Well, what was the last thing that you Googled?
What do you mean the last thing?
Well, we're always Googling. So I'm giving now Sex Smart Films and Dr. Mark Schoen. I'm giving people something to Google so they can look him up. But I'm curious, what's the last thing that a sexologist Googled?
Jeez. Well, my friend sells EMF jewelry, like protection against jewelry, EMF rays for jewelry and stuff for your phone. And so I just did my Christmas shopping. I got all my kids something that's the EMF protector.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to ask you a historical question and then a present time question.
Okay.
In your life and in your career, what has been the hardest challenge you've had to overcome?
Well, I guess I should say the work, but there were times where it was a little bit dicey doing the work when the government came out against prostitutes or people selling sex. It was, what was it called? They just had a mandate several years ago. But we've always had to protect ourselves about being lumped in with, and I don't have anything against people who want to do whatever they want to do with their bodies, but that's not who we are. And even though there's been no legal issues around surrogacy, like the people have just looked the other way, we've not had any trouble. I didn't know what was going to come down with these later mandates. So I've always felt protected. I knew I was doing a ministry here with this work, but other people sometimes didn't understand, or, I'd look over my shoulder a couple times, but yeah, to protect the work and get us where we are now, because I knew that integrative therapy was coming. It was just that I was born with all this. So I knew that it was coming and that it's here now. We're like a little under the radar now. There's a lot out there. Everybody's, doing touch and talk or using some kind of physical work, even in their neck down work, like sending people to the gym or sending people to go to yoga classes. That was unheard of back in the 80s or 90s, but that a therapist would say, maybe you should join a gym, or maybe you should go do yoga. So it's the renaissance of that touch is now seen as vital.
And none too soon. I mean, really, none too soon. What about now? Like, what's the challenge you're facing now as you grow your institute and you don't do the hands-on anymore, but you're bringing other people in to this specialty?
Yeah, the challenge is, and it sounds egocentric, is really replacing me. I have somebody coming up that I think is going to be perfect, but I don't do the normal, not normal. I don't like the word normal. So I wrote a book about it.
You could say normative or the standard kind of,
Yeah,
right?
the standard is that now you only get a machine when you call for a therapist. You call a therapist number and say, make a time and date, or if they're even going to say, tell me what your issue is and I'll get back to you. I want to answer the phone. I want to talk to every client because I'm the face that's out there and I want them to get me. And I do a 15-minute intake and I know whether they're a candidate or not. And I know where to send them if they're not a candidate for us. Maybe they need to go get something else cleaned up, like some medical stuff, or, before they come and see us. And so it's been really hard for me to transition this piece where I do all the intakes. It's more of a hands-on approach. I want to really have them feel safe and welcomed and know they're in the right place. And so I'm not very rigid about phone calls, and I talk to them like a friend, or so to replace me. But I do have a couple people coming up. I've had people listening in on my not only the initial 15-minute call, but the intake, which I created the intake. And so people are trained what that intake is and what we're looking for. It does take a certain person that can look between the lines and see what people are struggling with, so that I know where to ask more questions and to
So is this a viable avenue? Like, I mean, I've trained women since 1995. Women are my thing. I had a lot to learn about being a woman and a lot to learn about women's relationships and our skills, because like all of us, I was raised in a society that values the masculine and production and the linear thinking and rationality and such. So it took me a long time to crack open my acceptance of how different I am and how different women are. But is this a viable field for women
to be
to be
therapists?
surrogates or to be touch therapists? Or like, is it viable that there's a market out there that needs it and that there's training to supply it? I mean, listen, this is what I'm thinking of. What's highly on my mind right now is the war in Israel. I'm both Israeli and American. I adopted Israeli citizenship when I lived there in the 80s. And
Yeah.
in the very holy land that this is all happening in right now, there was a tradition of priestesses that would love the men back to life when they came back from the war and let the war fall off of them through the connection with these trained women. And I mean, if there's ever a time we need it, it's now. That level of compassion and surrender and service. But I mean, is it actually a real thing that this world could evolve to, or is it some distance in the future? What's your take on that?
It's always been my knowing that this is the future. And I say the future is here. That I've seen such an explosion in hands-on stuff. And yeah, what you're speaking to, I believe I was one of those women back in Egyptian times, because that's what the Egyptians did too. They would send their soldiers off for after they'd been in war, they would send them to be with women so that they could regain their, and I really feel that that's where I got my start. And I have met men in my work that I know I've been with before, and in those Egyptian times. And so, the world's got a lot that we could go to say what's going to happen here. And I believe that this is what we of us have been waiting for, is this opening of taking a look at how we are with each other, and that we're out of touch. I think touch is the core missing. We need to embrace, get back in touch with each other, with each other, like one-on-one to global, stop this nonsense. We all live on the same street, this planet called Earth. And we're going to lose the planet if they don't take a look. And, Age of Aquarius, I'm an old hippie too. The Age of Aquarius, there's so many things that are here now.
Right. Wait, we're not old hippies, we're aging hippies.
Oh, okay. Right.
So what do you do for yourself? What's your mental, social, emotional routine that you do to stay present and embodied?
I dance. I'm a tap dancer. I still take tap dancing lessons, and dancing is like my thing. I really can rejuvenate. And if I'm not feeling like I'm having a bad day, I just put on something and dance. Dancing, moving my body. Yoga. I found yoga when I was 19. There was a YMCA in Pottstown, Pennsylvania in 1970s, early 70s. That I learned yoga, and food is, just the way that I have a really good relationship with my body. That commitment I made as that young girl. My body's my best friend, and we read each other. So that's how I like my alone time, and I love time with people. So it's mixing it up and keeping going, just keep going.
Do you get body work on a regular basis?
I do. Once a month, I get a massage. Somebody that works on lymph, which I would recommend to everyone. Include lymph massage in your daily routines. We know now the importance of moving our lymph. I do something every day in the line of workout, yoga, or I go to the gym. And we have stairs that we climb to the top of a peak that looks out over a valley. So I'll do stairs. So mix it up with, and I fast actually one day a week. I fast every Monday.
Mm-hmm. For how many hours?
The day.
The day.
And that's
what do you feel about living alone? I don't know if you live alone, and you don't have to tell me, but what about the fact that more people live alone at this time in history than have ever before lived isolated from other people?
Meetup groups. Find people that are like-minded. It doesn't mean hookup. It means just find community.
So look for connection, not for sex.
Right. Yeah.
Can people learn about all of this by reading your book? Tell us a little about your book and why should we read it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the whole thing is about my work. It starts out with me standing in the hallway at the hospital, and I tell clients stories so that people can see themselves in it. I have models that I created myself for this work. I have a plethora of references, and I quote a lot of people who are heavy hitters in this field that are friends of mine. Yeah, it's the whole stigma about what is normal. I mean, that's why I name, because that's what I would hear in my office is, am I normal if I don't like to do this? Am I normal if I like to? I said, well, let's figure out first what's natural for you. And that's where we go to work. We have to get you with you. And I think that's the second chapter is you with you, because you can't do you with others, which is the next chapter, until you have a solid knowing. You know, we have so many shoulds around who we are, who we should be. And it comes from childhood. Well, you should be like this, or you should do. And then you get to school, especially high school, you should be this, you should, we live with so many shoulds, and we sell ourselves out, or to quote a friend of mine that works with gay and lesbian people, they're the ones who are mostly committing suicide in the school systems. So
they're so misunderstood, and they don't have acceptance for themselves.
Exactly, and that's where it is. That am I normal? Where's my relationship with me? I mean, I had a woman come in one time, and I use this in my talks as a joke, kind of. But she said, "My eyebrows are crooked." She came in for a session that she couldn't be out there because her eyebrow. I mean, it gets that. So it's such a huge conversation in the world. Like, what's normal? I mean, people kill people because they're not the right color. They're not the normal, yeah. Now you got me all fired up.
Well, I appreciate everything that you've said. Now, I'm terrible about going on Amazon and buying books because I never even know what my password is. So when it comes to doing technological things, I'm kind of impaired, meaning that I prefer not to do them. That is one thing I want to know, is one thing that you prefer not to do. So, because being the founder of an institute, there's endless things to do. What do you avoid? Like, if I could wave my magic wand, which I also often do, what would I procure for you that you would no longer have to do for yourself?
An assistant to do the computer stuff. It is not my brain. And I finally figure something out and they change it or they upgrade, or I just sit there and cry. I mean, literally, I do. It's just been, this is not why I'm here. And
no, not at all.
But to afford to pay someone, I don't even know how I would structure a payment with them. I mean, they'd have to come and sit with me, or something comes in and I'm trying to find something in my computer, and so that's it. I need somebody to sit with me at the computer. So if there's anybody out there who would like to learn about this work and come sit with me.
It'd probably be somebody young, because young people have those systems down, almost like it was downloaded from birth. They're exposed to it so young that they just get it.
I know, but I can't have those high school kids come work for me because I'm doing.
No, not high school. It needs to be more like a college, right?
Yeah, but they want to be
someone a little older than that.
Yeah, no, I know. It's so
I definitely, my life has improved by having a person do that for me. And we learn together. I have to be patient because a lot of times I don't know what I'm asking for. And then she has to figure out, what am I even talking about?
I know. How can you know? I don't know.
I'm like a technology virgin. I need someone to say, put the X in the Y. I really don't know what the language and the vocabulary even are.
Yeah.
How many people have you helped? Like, if you look, you're the second generation after M&J, right? Yeah. So now you have a third generation that you're training. How many people would you say you've helped in your career so far, including all the people that are training with you?
I'm going to say it's probably a couple thousand. Yeah, at least. I mean, I don't know.
If you took maybe a history on those people to find out what develops in their lives from working with you?
I don't have time. But the interesting thing is, a lot of people stay with us, and if people leave, they come back. I've just had another guy come back because now it's really more of a conversation. There's more out there about surrogacy and what's going on. And there's more people training, like Betty Martin's work.
Right.
Right. So
That's the Wheel of Consent. Very powerful work.
Yes, I know.
Incredible work. Life-changing work.
Very well. I've been to like 5 trainings, I think, and I don't pay. I help out, but yeah, I know Betty's work, and then I tell everybody that trains with me, they need to know the Wheel of Consent because they have to tell their clients about them. Every client learns about the Wheel of Consent.
I had no idea. That's amazing. She was just scheduled to come to Austin, but then that event was postponed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
she's a fabulous teacher. Amazing. It's no accident that as our world evolves, the soft skills that women bring to the game are being elevated, and our culture really needs them because it's not enough to do a job efficiently. You also have to do a job with feeling. You also have to do a job in community and relationship to other people. Like you say, first yourself and then others.
Exactly.
Well, what do you want to leave us with? Besides buy your book, can you tell me what your website is so I can pop it in here?
Website, my personal one is just my name, drsusankaye.com. And
they can buy your book there, right?
And you can buy it. It's connected. And if you want to know more about the trainings and the therapy, that's at imbtinternational.com. So it's Institute Mind Body Therapy International.com.
For training and surrogacy, and what else?
Well, if there's therapists who would be interested in getting trained, I train therapists how to do this work as a therapist. And we train body workers how to do the neck down, like what's the protocols, what's the system, what's the paperwork, really? How do we fill out information that we pass around? Because everybody that's on the team has to know what everybody else is doing. So it's really learning the paperwork in many ways and the protocols about phone calls, like we always talk after a session. And yeah.
I really appreciate the way that you followed your light and your curiosity. And from your 16-year-old declaration, show me how to not end up here. You've created this entire field and you've pioneered it with the pioneers of it, and you're continuing to train other people. It's such incredibly valuable work. I'm so glad that you were on. And I'm interested to read people's comments as they watch this broadcast. Would it be useful and valuable to have Dr. Kaye on again and have her bring a client on that could share his or her experience? It would be very interesting to hear. Ideally, like you were saying, parents should teach their children these kinds of things. I just don't know any that did. We're lucky that we live in a more sexually open culture than many places and many eras, because we have the actual possibility of getting connected to people that are sensual and sexual rather than having it be shrouded in mystery. But most people aren't going to learn this from their parents in this generation. So I really appreciate you bringing these teachings to light and to the general public. It's also really radical of you to be so wild and daring as to actually suggest that people have bodies.
Yeah. And that we should love them and take care of them.
That's right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for being here and all your beauty and your practical radicalism and your embodied your embodied life. It's very powerful to hear you talk. And I just imagine so many people in your wake literally teaching these normal things about the body and about our enjoyment of living in a body. It's
Yeah.
definitely been my path. It's taken me a long time to accept that I'm a human in a body,
Hmm.
but I'm so much happier now.
Yeah.
Any parting words for us?
Reach out and touch someone.
Reach out and touch someone. Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, Susan. Thank you.
Thank you for seeing the value, Karen, and trusting me with your audience. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
my pleasure. I look forward to both publicizing this out and to having you back and having someone
Okay.
come on that's experienced. I'd really love to hear a therapist come on as well, somebody that's trained with you.
We could do
I
that.
feel like there's a
Hmm.
lot of people that need access to this.
Yes.
And if I can in any way help to publicize this message of reach out and touch
Oh,
someone, I will consider my time well spent. So let me know when you're back in town, okay?
yeah, let's get together and I'll bring you a book. How's that? I'll
Thank
bring
you.
you
I'll
some.
buy it from you. I always like to get it from the author. I'm old fashioned that way, like you were talking about wanting to answer your own intake calls. I like to just
Yeah,
buy
right, right. I hear you. I get it.
it's high touch, right? Both of those are high touch.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Susan. Enjoy your time up there.
Thank you. Be safe.
And I'll see you before too long. Thank you,
Mhm.
Dr. Susan Kaye.
Bye.
Bye bye.